We just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
I have only ever loved one woman. And it ain't you, bitch. Poof. Bye-bye. Have a nice trip. See you next fall, because winter's coming. Woo! Oh, my God. That was a great episode. A great episode. I mean, there were, there were segments in each, throughout this whole episode, that just really got me revved up. You know what I mean? And obviously the way it ended, I mean, I was just like fired up. And going into the last 3 episodes of the season, 8, 9, and 10, this episode to me, for me right now, this is my favorite episode of the season. First of all, and look, we got to see Dany, and finally her and Dario hooked up, and you knew she liked him. Okay, you knew that she was feeling him, but she's trying to just do the whole royalty thing, and she got off on running that whole thing. Take your clothes off, let's see what you do best type deal. Let's start, but and that was cool, and I wanted to get that out there because a lot of times when this show, since it kind of goes back and forth with other characters, sometimes they'll take Daenerys and they'll like focus on her for a good couple of minutes and then we won't see her again. And sometimes I tend to forget about that. You guys know this. A couple of weeks ago, you guys asked me, hey, what's going on? You didn't talk about Daenerys. So I want to get that out the way first. I like how, she switched, flipped the switch when she spoke to, Jorah, and he basically told her, look, going down there and killing them, basically trying to tell her that she needs to be a little bit more strategic about how she approaches, her enforcing her rule or her law, and how she needs to show the slaves that there's more to this world and more to life than just brutality. So I like that. That was good, and she listened. So that was a good segment. The whole thing that played out with Dario and how he came and he counseled her and helped change her mind, and then told him to tell Dario that he changed her mind. So that was good. I like that. That was great. So now, rewinding it back to the beginning, I love the opening of the show. We have the brothers there going back and forth. Tyrion having a plan, and Jaime just being so upset at him. And Tyrion said, look, the wall, more or less is not for me. It's not a life. It would have been exactly what Dad wanted. He would have had you back, being his heir out of the Kingsguard. And I would have been stuck in the wall, out of sight, out of mind. That's exactly what he wanted. I didn't want to give him what he wanted. That was great. And then he even kind of antagonized Jaime a little bit when he said, you're the golden child. You can do no wrong. You can kill the king. You can kill the hand. You can fuck your sister. And Jaime was like, easy. I'm your only friend. I mean, that opening scene was great. That back and forth was great. But then towards the end of the scene, when you see them, you see the love there for those two guys, man. You really see that Jaime is like, he's like torn apart right now because this is his family. He does love Cersei. I don't know about his father so much. He might, respect his father. I'm not sure if he exactly loves him because he knows his father is a shithead. But he adores his brother. He adores his brother. So that was a great scene. That was just a great way to open the show. Okay? Then we go and we visit Arya and the Hound. And this is another, and this takes place 2 times, but I'm going to mold them into one here because they had 2 separate scenes. I liked how the Hound did that mercy kill. That's not something I expect from him. I expect him to be more like, all right, this guy's dead, shink, and that's it. End of story. He gave the guy a drink. Even his face, his expression, almost like he felt bad. And it's like, these two have clashed so many times at this point that you kind of, you kind of see them almost influencing each other because Arya is becoming little by little is becoming more aggressive. Killing is not an issue for her, obviously. Where the Hound is, while he still can be a prick and he can still fight, that little scene with the old man, to me, like, that's just not something I expected from him, but I liked it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that whole thing. Then when the guys attacked him, and he's like, is this guy's name on your list? And she's like, no. And then the Hound's like, what's your name? And he says his name. I don't remember it. And she says, thank you. Right in the, I mean, that got fired up when I saw that. I'm like, damn, this little girl is badass. Badass. So, and then later on, they're at the camp and, he's, the wound and she's, basically recommending, you should put fire on that. Cauterize the wound. And he's like, nope, no fire. You know how he feels about fire. And then he basically opens up to her. And this, to me, is like a whole, like switcheroo. Like, not to say that Arya really opened up to him because for a long time she didn't like him. I'm still unsure how she feels about him, but she obviously has more compassion than she's had before, and he obviously looks, I'm sure, has gained some respect for her because of how she's been handling herself. Yeah, she may not be able to beat most men. Yeah, she may not be the most skilled swordsman, but she's got potential, and she so far has held her own. And a couple of times, she's even helped him out. So I like that duo. I really do. It's like that family that just doesn't work out too well sometimes, but somehow they come together when they need to. It was great. It was great. I loved it. So, I mean, there's a lot in this episode that, right now, I'm so amped up that I probably will miss some parts. I'm not going to lie there, and I've done it before, but this time it's just, right now what's running through my mind are these scenes that, for me personally, were a big impact. Okay, then we see Bronn and Tyrion, and this was another a lot of emotional, and when I say emotional, I don't mean like crying, but you bam, they just hit you right here, like they really played into that, to me personally. And when Bronn came in, and I saw him in the clothes, and I was thinking the exact same thing, Tyrion, I'm like, oh, this guy sold out. But in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. But the thing of it is that even still, Tyrion understands that. And Tyrion had already alluded to calling out Bronn to be his champion when he spoke to Jaime. So he's sitting there, and they're talking, and he's like, well, I'm marrying so-and-so. Again, I wasn't paying attention to who he married, didn't recognize the name, so just let you guys know. But obviously, it was something set up by Cersei, and he was obviously, probably, I'm sure, getting compensated in more ways than one. Bear with me here, I'm just closing my Facebook. And, he tells him, he's like, look, if I'm going to be a champion, I mean, what am I going to get out of this? And I can't blame the guy. I mean, the Mountain's a beast, man. I mean, you saw what he was doing earlier in the episode, just chopping people up like practice. And, Bronn tells him, he's like, I might beat the guy, but if I make one wrong move, I'm dead. And, Bronn wants to live just like anyone else, just like Tyrion. But still, after they're going back and forth, Tyrion says, look, Tyrion knows that he was with a sellsword, but what I got out of this, and this is something some of you guys in the comment section a couple of weeks back even said this to me, and I was still unsure, but this was the confirmation for me. Bronn obviously had some affection towards Tyrion. I mean, he's still a sellsword through and through, number one, but you could tell, like, when he shook his hand and then he held it, that I just like that. I like that because it shows you that their relationship at some point got to a point where it was more than just about money, but it still was about money. You know what I'm getting at? Like, Bronn liked him. Probably to Bronn, it was probably the best job he ever had. He was getting paid. He was doing his job, but he actually liked his boss. How many of us can actually say that? So, moving on from that. And then, again, and like I said, I'm playing through the parts that had the biggest impact on me in the show. Going back to Tyrion once again in the dungeon. And this time he's visited by Prince Oberyn. And I know some of you guys were a little upset last week when I talked about the next episode, and I understand that, completely understand. Apologize if you felt that I spoiled it. I personally didn't think it was a big deal, but I do understand. But now that the cat's out of the bag, even knowing what was going to come, the way they did it and the way it was set up in terms of what story Prince Oberyn told to Tyrion, and I didn't even think that he was really that much older than Tyrion to actually have seen him as a baby. But when he told that story to Tyrion, and I know where he was going because, at this point I already knew. But when he told the story about Cersei and what Cersei was saying and what he was expecting to see when he was a child, Tyrion, and you see Tyrion the guy is at rock bottom right now, man. And he's probably thinking to himself, oh, this guy's really kicking me while I'm down. And he gets up, he grabs his flame, he says, I'll be your champion. And Tyrion had the look on his face like, thank you, God, so much for this, for this man's basically stepping in for me. Because despite the size of the mountain and despite how ruthless he is, nothing is going to drive Prince Oberyn, like killing or having a chance to kill the mountain, and at the same time having the chance to fuck over the Lannisters, with the exception of Tyrion. And I'm not saying that he's fond of Tyrion. I mean, however he feels about the Lannisters, he feels about them, but this is the best opportunity he has, and Tyrion's going to be the benefactor. Whether or not the Viper comes out the winner or not, it remains to be seen. That's something I don't know, and I know you book readers know that. So remember, comments are in approval. I got somebody watching them for me, so don't spoil it because it'll just get deleted. And that was another very emotional scene because during the story when he was telling Tyrion, I felt that, man. For Tyrion sitting there, he's almost in tears, and it's just like, damn, almost every scene is like this. So finally, and I just picked up on one other thing I want to touch on, but I'm going to get to, let me go to Podrick and Brienne. and that little scene was very nice. They went to a little inn, and we run into again, I haven't seen this guy in 2 seasons. Sorry, man. I don't remember his name. He's not that important. He was important now, but he wasn't important, maybe a season ago. But sorry, don't remember his name, guys. Sorry. But anyway, but we all know who he is, okay? He was friends with, Arya, and they escaped the Hound, and they escaped the Lannisters, and the Brotherhood, and we all remember that. So I thought Podrick brought up a good point. And while Brienne, it turned out to work in Brienne's favor that she actually mentioned it, I still think she should take what Podrick said to heart, because there's nobody you can trust up there. But she got lucky. She gambled, and it paid off. She hit the jackpot on the first try. So now we have Arya and the Hound heading to the Vale. Podrick and Brienne now looks like they're going to head to the Vale. And now we go to the Vale. And I'm sorry, this little kid Robin is another Justin Bieber. I used to refer to Joffrey as the homicidal Justin Bieber. This kid is a straight up Justin Bieber, hair and all, before Bieber tried to go all hip hop and hood and stuff. So I thought they were having a nice moment, Robin and Sansa. That's family and they're getting married, but okay, we've seen that. We should be used to that by now, right? So they're chilling, and then he wants to put a moon door. He knocks over the tower. Now, granted, I think Sansa overreacted a little bit. But then the kid just went buck wild, and he's kicking the castle. She stopped him. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. All his mother does is just give him the tit. Like, hey, shut up. Yeah, shut up. Come here. Nah, he needed a good slap. And then Peter comes down, and they have their little talk. Man, when he kissed her, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, man. I almost had to change my drawers. I'm like, holy shit. And she said to Lysa later on when she was hanging her over the door, I pulled back. That's bullshit. She kissed him back. To me, she kissed him back. And he kind of charmed her there. He was talking about her mom. He was hitting all the right buttons, laid it on her. She felt it. Lysa's in the background like, all right, bitch, moon door time. Can you tell I'm fired up? I really am fired up with this episode. It's great. And finally, we get to the scene. Lysa's hanging him over the door, hanging Sansa over the door after all the buildup. And Peter comes in, calms the situation, woos Lysa, and woos her right into the moon door. And man, what a great episode. This is my favorite episode so far. And that's saying a lot, because when Joffrey died, man, I almost literally threw a block party. But man, this episode just did it for me, man. I love this show. It's so great. Anyway, guys, I do apologize for the long length. Usually I like to try and keep my videos at 10 minutes and under, but this episode was phenomenal. And I do want to apologize last week for those of you who were complaining that I spoiled the next episode. I try not to do those things, especially considering I hate spoilers. But I just didn't think at the time it was a real big spoiler. But hey, we learn, we live, we learn. We get past it, and that's it, man. Because we got the next 3 episodes, 8, 9, and 10, I think are really going to be good. And that's it. That's it. If I missed any parts, I do apologize. But these are just I'm fresh off the episode right now, so these are just some of the episodes, some of the parts of the episode that just did it for me. Like just bam, it was like bam, one after the other. It was great, fantastic. And you can definitely expect my preview this week. I know I didn't do it last week. I got to see an early screening of the Godzilla movie, and it was all fun. And, if you guys are here from the channel, that's like a big deal here. But we'll definitely touch on the preview this week. Anything I missed tonight, I will definitely bring up in that preview video this week, because I'm going to see the episode at least a couple more times. But that's it. Sorry for the long video. Thank you for watching. This is Rob signing off for ETN, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching ETN. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page. You're watching ETN, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
I have only ever loved one woman. And it ain't you, bitch. Poof. Bye-bye. Have a nice trip. See you next fall, because winter's coming. Woo! Oh, my God. That was a great episode. A great episode. I mean, there were, there were segments throughout this whole episode that just really got me revved up. You know what I mean? And obviously the way it ended, I mean, I was just like fired up. And going into the last 3 episodes of the season, 8, 9, and 10, this episode for me right now, this is my favorite episode of the season. First of all, and look, we got to see Dany, and finally her and Dario hooked up. And you knew she liked him. Okay, you knew that she was feeling him, but she's trying to just do the whole royalty thing, and she got off on running that whole thing. You know, take your clothes off, let's see what you do best type deal. Let's start, but you know, and that was cool, and I wanted to get that out there because a lot of times when this show, since it kind of goes back and forth with other characters, sometimes they'll take Daenerys and they'll like focus on her for a good couple of minutes, and then we won't see her again. And sometimes I tend to forget about that. You guys know this. A couple of weeks ago, you guys asked me, "Hey, what's going on? You didn't talk about Daenerys." So I want to get that out the way first. I like how, you know, she flipped the switch when she spoke to Jorah, and he basically told her, look, you know, going down there and killing them, you know, basically trying to tell her that she needs to be a little bit more strategic about how she approaches, you know, her enforcing her rule or her law, and how she needs to show the slaves that there's more to this world and more to life than just brutality.